Assalamualaikum and very good day. Today our group will present about the corruption and strategies to combat corruption cases in Malaysia. Now I would like to explain about the objective of our presentation. So the first objective of our presentation is to define the concept of corruption. This is important so that everyone has a clear and common understanding of what corruption means before we go deeper into the topic. The second objective is to examine the impact of corruption, and finally is the third objective is to discuss anti-corruption strategies implemented in Malaysia. Now I will briefly explain about the introduction. So first, corruption is one of the major issue faces in Malaysia. Corruption happens when someone give or receive a gratification, either money or a valuable item, in exchange for doing something dishonestly. So there are many forms of corruption, including bribery, extortion, fraud, nepotism, embezzlement, and favoritism. We also categorize corruption into two main types, which is the first corruption is a petty corruption, which is where the amount of money involved in is small and the impact on the country is minimal. So for an example, is paying extra money to a doctor just to get faster for the treatment. The second type of corruption is a grand corruption, which is involve a large sum of money and has a serious long-term impact on the nation. For example, this is a common example, which is when a big government project are given to unqualified companies.
The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, or MACC, is an independent and sole body that manages cases related to corruption, as well as a frontrunner in anti-corruption initiatives in Malaysia. The role of MACC is to eradicate corruption, abuse of power, and malpractice in Malaysia, with its function deeply rooted to the principles of being independent, transparent, and professional in fulfilling its duties. Moving on to the history of MACC, it first started out as ACA, or the Anti Corruption Agency, which was formally set up to centralize anti corruption work and began operating in the 1960s. The ACA operated under different ministries and through several legislative updates, while handling prevention, investigation, and education on corruption. Since then until present day, we now have the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, or MACC. To provide a single independent commission with wider powers, Parliament enacted the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Act, or Act 694. The MACC Act came into force on the 1st of January 2009, and the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission (MACC) replaced the ACA as the centralized and statutory anti-graft body. This is a comparison between the former ACA logo and the current MACC logo.
The four main legal parameters of the MACC consist of 1. Receiving complaints of corruption and abuse of position. 2. Conducting investigation. 3. Providing consultancy and advisory as well as the service to improve the system which can close the opportunity and space for corruption. And fourth, educate and enlist the support of the community in the fight against corruption.
One of the cases taken by the MACC this year, which involved a senior police officer and a civilian. The senior police officer was believed to be a serving officer in the Royal Malaysian Police, and the male civilian acted as a middleman to pass on the bribe to the officer. Both were remanded by the MCC as part of a bribery probe. So, the bribery allegedly happened because the police officer was suspected of accepting a bribe to halt or influence a criminal investigation into a physical altercation involving the civilian suspect. The civilian was believed to act as an intermediary to solicit approximately 8,000 ringgit in bribes, which was then passed on to the officer in cash form. police officer and the civilian are suspected of committing corruption offences, which include soliciting and receiving bribes to influence official duties, police investigation, abuse of power or misconduct in public office, as well as acts investigated under Section 17A of the MACC Act of 2009, which is giving or receiving gratification for corrupt purposes. The bribery amount involved was approximately 8,000 ringgit in cash, believed to be passed from the civilian to the police officer. The case was resolved through the MACC conducting an investigation after receiving intelligence on the bribery. Both suspects were arrested separately in Kuala Lumpur between 29th and 31st August 2025. Remand orders were granted by the court to allow further investigation. And finally, the case was being processed by the MACC under the MACC Act of 2009.
This slide shows Malaysian anti-corruption laws under Act 575, the Anti-Corruption Act 1997. Section 10 covers accepting gratification or bribes. Section 11 involves giving or receiving gratification by an agent. Section 12 states a person is still guilty even if the intended act was not complete. Section 13 refers to corruptly influencing the withdrawal of a tender. Section 14 deals with bribery of public officers. Section 15 covers abusing one's position to obtain gratification. These sections aim to prevent corruption and protect integrity in public service.
Next, I will talk about some of the campaigns carried out by the MACC in schools and universities to prevent corruption. Firstly, Angkatan Mahasiswa Anti Rasuah (AMAR) aims to expose IPT students to anti-corruption prevention programs. AMAR also helps to train IPT students in managing and implementing anti-corruption prevention programs. After that, the introduction of the Kursus Integrasi dan Anti Rasuah (KIAR) in subject in universities aims to enhance skills, promote knowledge sharing, and provide exposure on all aspects related to corruption issues, governance, and integrity. Lastly, Wira Anti Rasuah War aims to cultivate values of trustworthiness, honesty, and respect for others' rights in the daily lives of students. The practice of these positive values will produce a generation with a high level of integrity. Indirectly, students will become aware of the dangers and negative consequences of corruption. This strategic approach targets primary and secondary school students as well as their teachers.
To conclude, corruption is a serious issue in Malaysia, involving the abuse of power, bribery, fraud, and other unethical acts for personal gain. To combat this, the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, which is MACC, was established as an independent body in 2009 to replace the former Anti-Corruption Agency. MACC works based on the principle of being independent, transparent, and professional. It investigates complaints, prevents opportunities for corruption, and educates the public. There are various laws, including the Anti-Corruption Act, outline clear offences such as accepting or giving bribes and abusing one's position. Real case, such as the bribery investigation involving a senior police officer, show that corruption can occur at many levels and that enforcement is very important. Through investigation, legal action, and awareness programs like AMAR, KIAR, and WAR, Malaysia continues to strengthen efforts to fight corruption and promote integrity in society.